When you thought your life after blindness would be normal, you may have to think again. With a world filled with darkness, feelings such as regrets, fear, hatred, and pain are your new companion. It all began with this petite young girl. She may not see the world, but she heavily relied on her senses to move around. But one day, she made a decision that would trigger a series of events later on. A month earlier, Ellen, the petite young girl, was attacked. Her eyesight was gravely impaired, and the doctors told her she may never see again. Devastated, Ellen could only cry out her suffering. Nevertheless, the nightmares of that night's attack haunted her dreams. The police were on her case and suggested it was a robbery, but Ellen was certain that she was the target of the attack. As the police continued on his interrogation, she felt suffocated and requested to stop the meeting. Leaving her behind, she could only mellow to her pain. Ellen finally received a call from her brother. From the conversation, it seemed the two had grown apart before the accident happened. They talked about her treatments and transition plans, but Ellen was far from interested in the topic. Finally, they arranged for her new home. As Ellen slept in her new house, she was startled by noises from within. It was Clayton, her private nurse, here for her care. They conversed about the place, with Clayton enjoying their time together. But Ellen was not feeling his presence, so Clayton suggested lunch and would wait for her in the kitchen. Soon, Ellen tried to examine the new place. Despite her blindness, she was making progress and was slowly making her way to the kitchen on her own. Feeling victorious about her achievement, she was startled when Clayton spoke behind her. They proceeded in discussing the plans for her transition, encouraging Ellen that she would get through it all. After the briefing, Clayton excused himself and promised to be one call away. Finally alone, Ellen called a friend, seeking familial comfort. However, the other was off the grid, so she could only rant through the message relays. Suddenly, Ellen felt strange as flashes of the attack hunted her once more. Tossing in bed, the nightmares continued and invaded her waking hours as well. The next day, Clayton presented her with a pet bird as a companion. Ellen was enlightened with the pet, and Clayton encouraged her to imagine more. She then inquired about the surroundings, questioning the noises, wanting to learn more about her new place. But their conversation was stopped when the police called and explained their progress. Clayton sensed her distress, so he immediately talked about something else and reassured her everything was fine now. But Ellen was indifferent to his claim, hearing the all-too-familiar lie. Ellen continued to pour out the pain she had suffered, and Clayton had to intervene. He comforted and emphasized the good things that came to her. But this just added fuel to the raging flame inside Ellen. When Clayton stopped, Ellen realized the mistake she had done and apologized. Clayton left her with a cane, but the struggles of being blind bugged her even more. Finding a speaker, she was surrounded by a classical piece resonating from it. She busied herself with self-teaching and practice to keep her distracted. Later that day, she cleaned herself and went to bed. But as Ellen tossed in bed, she heard the doors open, signaling someone was inside. Alarmed, she called for help, but all were of no use. Despite not seeing, Ellen toughened herself and scanned the place for the intruder. Sensing no one around, she forced herself back to bed. Ellen then heard water drippings from the toilet. She had no choice but grumpily addressed it. However, feeling the pills, she was horrified by her thoughts. She tried calling again but reached Clayton instead. She heard banging, and an apparition of a drenched girl hunted her imagination. The noises came from next door, which surprised Ellen dearly. Ellen reported the assault to Clayton, but he reassured her everything was fine. Clayton then proposed for them to go outside, but she flatly declined the offer. She did go out, however, and was determined to find the assaulted neighbor. When she tried to approach the neighbor, she was bothered by tons of red flags and stated them all to Clayton. But the man did not hear her thoughts, leaving the girl with more questions. Clayton encouraged her to participate in other activities, but she was too preoccupied to care. Clayton, on the other hand, was having the time of his life with Ellen's grumpiness. With few teasing, they were starting to build a bond. Ellen then asked about Clayton's life, and the man shared his share of suffering. However, Clayton enthusiastically narrated his journey in life, sparking interest in Ellen's heart. They moved to the window side, and with a touch of a hand, Ellen could fairly imagine what Clayton looked like. Their moment, however, was cut short. Ellen was listening to her emails when knocking broke her peace. It was the neighbor named Lana, and Ellen let her in. Lana scanned the place, complimenting its uniqueness. But the friendly atmosphere shifted when the guests started to act out of tune. She began questioning Ellen with unnecessary and burdensome one. Angered, it was Ellen's turn to ask, but Lana quickly escaped after warning her not to trust easily. Hearing her leave, Ellen wanted to catch up, but it was too late. She immediately informed Clayton of the incident, certain the girl was in big trouble. But with Clayton taking the harming husband's side, Ellen lost interest in their conversation. She then called the cops, asking for them to come and check on Lana. However, the cops did not find anything and said the woman was all right. Ellen had no choice but to cry her suspicions away. She heard the doorbell, signaling Clayton had arrived. She then spoke of the similarities and the alarms, noting they were recurring every time the man visited. Clayton, however, requested she dismiss those thoughts, but Ellen began to time the events, noting any subtle changes in her surroundings. She concluded the strange similarities, now formulating reasons as to the cause. But again, Clayton was nonchalant about her worries. He believed Ellen was just hyped about the changes because she was not used to it yet. Later that day, Ellen listened in on the music resonating from next door. She then went to the bath where recurring memories hunted her once more. This time, however, Ellen was determined to calm herself of her worries. But as she was about to drink her medicine, she hesitated instead. Ellen then searched online for someone when she heard the elevator ring. She believed it was Lana and Ellen wanted to apologize. However, it was the husband, so Ellen backed off. He was intimidating her, causing Ellen to be threatened. She told Clayton of the events that the man almost barged in on the intruding neighbor. But Ellen stopped him and questioned the man's sudden change in behavior. With no choice, Clayton confessed his feelings for Ellen, causing the girl to pause. So Clayton proposed to stop being her nurse, not wanting to get too attached. Clayton thought she was displeased with the information, which the man understood. But Ellen had started to have feelings for the man as well, which gave him hope. However, Clayton was moving too fast, which frightened Ellen. So he backed off and left her be. That evening, she called her friend once again, but nothing. Soon, she heard someone enter her house and assumed it was Clayton. But as she apologized, the anxiety of not getting any response made her imagine it was someone else. Ellen tried to escape, but her perpetrator was ahead of her. Ellen woke up to a voice's constant calling. It was a paramedic who was taking care of her wounds. Clayton went into her room, comforting her of the event. With the cops here, Ellen wanted to testify that it was the same attacker. But Clayton wanted to stop her, worried where they would take her afterward. But Ellen was determined to talk with her case inspector despite his worries. The inspector informed her that there were no signs of breaking in, but she was certain the doors were locked. They then talked about Ellen's friend, asking how well she knew about her. With the final blow, the police speculated she was Ellen's attacker. Stressed out, Ellen wanted them to review the video footage of the recent attack, but the police did not find anyone suspicious. She was desperate, saying she was indeed attacked, but the police did not listen. They think she was making things up because of her impairment, causing Ellen to cry in pain. The next day, Clayton arrived and accidentally woke her up. She requested for him to leave. Ellen was feeling lost, and she wanted to call her brother. Clayton gave her space, promising to make her dinner instead. Alone, Ellen began to write a letter addressed to her loved ones. She poured out her sentiments, the sorrow in her heart, and her regrets. She then proceeded to the balcony, readying herself to jump as tears showered her face. And after saying her goodbyes, she jumped to her end. But that was not of Ellen Ashland. She was now locked inside another room, filled with equipment that mimicked the outside world. She was now more speculative of the events, with tons of questions piling up. Ellen could only cry out her frustration, afraid of her situation. However, she ventured outside and met with Lana. Ellen ushered her home, where she questioned what was happening. But Lana was only giving the glimpse of the events, saying she was knocked for her protection. Soon, Clayton arrived, but Ellen was now more conscious about her nurse. They argued about the place, with Ellen letting all her frustration out on him. But Clayton smoothed out her fears and worries, promising he would always be with her. But Ellen was far from feeling secure. She was more cautious of her companion, but still tried to fix herself for dinner. Clayton gifted Ellen a violin, encouraging her to play once more. But his efforts only come as meddling for her. As the man excused himself with that subtle knocking, Ellen's mind flooded with conspiracy. She believed this man with her was the same person she had encountered over the course of her blindness. Realizing the possibility, she was more afraid of the man. Sensing her fear, Clayton voiced out his worries. But she faked her demeanor, acting along with the man. However, when Ellen finally got the chance to apprehend him, she attacked and was hopeful it would buy her some time to escape. She frantically searched for the keys, took her cane, and dashed to her door, desperate to get out of the place. But she could not open it, and when she returned to her living room, Clayton suddenly attacked her. But the man blacked out, allowing Ellen to escape. Weak, blind, and scared, Ellen searched the man's belongings, desperate to find anything useful for her escape. And as she searched, she seemingly found a taser gun. She went to each door, fumbling till she got one right. Surprisingly, she unlocked a hidden room that was new to her. Ellen aimlessly maneuvered her way around, both wary and conscious. But suddenly, she stopped in her tracks. She could feel all the costumes this man had worn to deceive her. Her fears were confirmed, now realizing this man with her could also be her attacker. Ellen was now imagining things, thinking Lana was with her and that the man was now on the loose. But believing she heard Lana escaped, she followed in on her. Inside what seemed to be a hospital room, Lana was curled up in bed. Ellen proposed for them to escape, but Lana was hesitant, saying she needed to be with her brother. She questioned what was going on, to which Lana said this was her brother's way of repaying Ellen for saving him from the dark. With Clayton nearing their location, Ellen was determined for them to escape together. However, Lana was determined to stay, pushing Ellen back to the room where there was a vent she could escape. Ellen scrambled back into her room to locate the said vent, but she was blind and did not know where else to go. In the end, she was captured once more by her psychotic so-called savior. Ellen was dragged to the control room, with zip ties restraining her movements. Clayton proceeded on scaring her, inflicting fear in Ellen's core. Ellen tried to start a conversation with the man, asking him why he was doing this all. Clayton once again told her his story, but this time sharing his regrettable experience as a child. But with Ellen's play, Clayton got a hold of the light throughout his struggle. He continued, saying this was the way for her to rely on him as much as he relied on her music to survive. Clayton proceeded, asking for her to play along once more, and promised he would do anything and be anyone for her. As Ellen shivered in fear, she could hear the wind blowing from the vent near them. Realizing it may be her way out, she tested her luck and played along. Ellen tried to outsmart the man, bombarding him with requests to buy some time. Then, she shocked him, broke herself free, and went to the vent. She struggled to get in, but it only contained the same chemical that harmed her sight. She then dashed back into the other room, thinking Lana meant that room's vent. But Clayton caught up with her and showed no mercy. He tried to overpower Ellen, but the girl used the chemicals to gain the upper hand. Lana arrived, and together with Ellen, they left the disoriented Clayton in that dark room. They were now ready to escape, with Lana opening the gates. Ellen aimlessly walked into the light, rejoiceful that everything has come to an end. Half a year later, Ellen was dressed up beautifully for a recital. Hundreds of people gathered to witness her play once again. Despite her blindness, she was determined to get back into music and showcase her talents back into the world. She stepped into the crowd, now ready to face her light.